Hello and welcome to A1 Injection, Mitigations, Countermeasures and Defenses tutorial. Defenses are centered around three main areas: neutralize all special characters, perform input validation, whitelisting techniques. A lot of times the attacker will include lot of text, comments and other special characters specific to language or database. You want to neutralize these special characters and make them be received as a text or a data only, instead of being interpreted inadvertently by your database or by your OS, etc. Now I recommend that you go with language specific frameworks. Language specific framework is if you have them available, such as MSDN, Microsoft have a lot of neutralization techniques available within their framework. Java based such as struts and Spring. However, if you don't have a language specific framework, then you can draw from OWASP HTML Sanitizer. OWASP has HTML Sanitizer which can certainly be used for your output encoding. Performing input validation. As programmers, we tend to code on the happy path where we don't code thinking about what could go wrong or input that can come into our program that we are not expecting. So input validation is that very thing. Generally, input validation needs to be verified through a manual code review, sometimes with others on your development team. Whitelisting techniques: accepting the values that are allowed, and this can be done in a number of different ways. You can create arrays, enumeration, constant, regular expression, the values that are acceptable to your program. Also, you could set up a constant, maybe a header file or some sort of common area, and then when you receive input from the command line or from the GUI, you could do a match or a comparison against what is received against those constant. Regular expression pattern matching is also a very common way to employ a whitelist. Now if we look specifically at the particular injection type that we saw in A1 injection tutorial, the link to which is in the description box below. The first one was SQL injection. Now for SQL injection, we must perform our input validation, ensuring that we receive what we should really be expecting. Secondly, we need to neutralize the input from presentation tier. And how this is commonly done is through the use of parameterized query with bind variables, and you want to stipulate the use of the bind variables. So for example, if you take a look at the Java code here that's presented, we have prepared a statement. This prepared statement has a SQL statement within it of select transaction data from transaction table with batch ID equal to question mark and customer number equal to question mark. Now you will notice that both question mark are then filled with values that are received from the presentation tier, but they have been sanitized through an input validation technique first, and then they are actually placed within the SQL statement using bind variables. You see 1 and 2 correspond to each question mark. What this does is, even if the attacker does put some sort of SQL injection into either of these parameters, they are not going to be inadvertently be executed by the database. Instead, it's going to be treated just as a data. Now in regards to command injection prevention, we definitely need to perform some sort of path validation. This is usually done by first canonicalizing that path and showing that it's not a symbolic link, that it is a full absolute path and that it matches the OS. And then what you want to do is perform your input validation. Make sure that you got some sort of array or enumeration of acceptable command, so that anything that falls outside of that will not be accepted in your program. Finally, for the JSON injection prevention, as I mentioned in the previous lecture, we need to encode for JavaScript to ensure that we are not any kind of reflective cross-site scripting for mobility in our response. The OWASP sanitizer is a Java library that's available for addressing some minor encoding issues with JSON, and it's also very good at taking any kind of JSON like content and converting it to an actual valid, well-formed JSON in order to make it easier for parsing.